This conference will now be recorded.
So in the last class, we have seen how to create a servlet in Eclipse IDE and using Tomcat 9 server. Now, so for that, what we have done, we have created a web project. First, we have configured server, then we have created a web project, and in that we have created a servlet. So whenever you want to create a servlet, just to create a class which extends HTTP servlet and override doGet method. And doGet method takes two arguments: HTTP servlet request, HTTP servlet response, response throws, servlet exception and IO exception. So whenever you want to give response back to the browser from where we got request, we have to connect to the browser. How to connect to the browser? Using printWriter out equal to response dot get writer. This printWriter is a class belongs to java.io package. Then if I want to include HTML code in our response, then we have to call this method response dot set content type text slash HTML. Then using out.println, we can display the content onto the browser. Right? Whatever the content we keep it in double quotes, that will get displayed on the client browser. Now, today let us move to the next one, and this is very important concept. This is the main topic, that is reading HTML form data into a servlet. Reading HTML form data into a servlet. So what is the main use of HTML form? HTML form is used to accept the user input. Whenever we want to accept some input from user, we can create the HTML form. Once we create the form, the data what user has entered, now I should give it to the servlet to process the data, to process the user input. Now let us understand more on this using a diagram. Read form data. Read form data. How to read form data into servlet? Let us understand using a diagram. Reading HTML form data into a servlet. Now, so for this, let us create one HTML form. Let me go with the name emp.html, or let us go with something like whatever it may be, emp.html. Any form, it's the concept remains same. Then here we are going to accept the details like employee number, employee name, and employee salary, and one submit button. Here we go with the text fields to accept the user input for employee number, employee name, and salary. Then a submit button. Now, once we fill the data, like example employee number, we are giving something like 101. Employee name, like Ramu, and employee salary, some salary, 20,000. Once we fill this data, when we click on submit button, we want to connect to a servlet. We want to connect to what? A servlet. Let me go with the name of the servlet as EMP servlet. And what this servlet should do, it should read this form data, and we want to display the response back onto the browser. The data what we have accepted in the form, we want to display the employee data in tabular format. We want to display the data in which format? Tabular format. So here we want to go with the heading, employee number, employee name, and employee salary. Here we go with the data, table data, employee number 101, employee name Ramu, and salary 20,000. The data what we have filled in the form, I want to show the data in tabular format. So this is the response what we want to display back onto the browser. This is the response we want to display what back onto the browser. Right? Now, so how to do this process? So how to read this form data into servlet? If you are able to read form data into servlet, once the data is read, whatever you want to do with the data, it depends on the application. So how to read this form data is, we have to give the name to the form fields. Here we have to give the name. Like here I'm going with Enroll, e-name, and salary. We are giving the name to the form fields. So by using these names only, we can read the form data. How to read form data is by using the method. Remember this method. Till last day we use this method, that is request dot get parameter. Request dot get parameter. So this method is used to read HTML form data into a servlet. So which method is used to read form data into servlet means request dot get parameter. Like example, you can say string ename equal to request dot get parameter of ename. Now in this one, this ename is Java variable. In this ename, what we have passed in double quotes is HTML form field name. Form field name. So the data what we have entered in this ename will come and store into our Java variable ename. Right? So this ename is your text field. This one. This ename. This value will come and store into this ename variable. Like that. In order to read form data, we use which method? Request.get parameter, and we have to pass the parameter name over here. Then, and what is the written type of this method? Request.get parameter method returns string. Important note: the written type of request.get parameter method is string. As we keep on asking this question, remember this. Clear with this concept up to here? Any questions? Now let us develop the complete application. Create a HTML file, emp.html in web project. Open Eclipse. So we have created web project now. Right click on web project and say new, and in the list you can see HTML file. Go with the name emp.html. Say finish. Right? Now design the form. Directly we can use form tag. Form action equal to web project / emp servlet. Form action. Action means what? When you click on submit button, that is an action. So when you click on submit, I should connect to EMP servlet. So that is the meaning here, action equal to. So project name is case sensitive. What are the project name we have given? That same name we have to use, and it is case sensitive. Then, now design the form. Employee number, input type equal to text, name equal to Enroll. The names are important here. By using names only, we can read form data. Employee name, input type equal to text, name equal to ename. Employee salary, input type equal to text, name equal to salary. And one submit button. Input type equal to submit, value equal to submit. So when you click on this submit button, it is going to connect to EMP Servlet. Let me document how to create HTML file. Right click on web project and say new HTML file. It will ask you the file name. We are giving it as emp.html and click finish. Now let us create the servlet. Create a servlet, emp servlet in web project. Already we know how to create servlets. Emp servlet. Let us create the servlet now. Right click on web project and say new. In the list you can see servlet. Go with the class name emp servlet. Now import the related packages. Override do get method, and let us even go with the do post also. So today even we discuss when to think of do post. Then in do post method we are invoking do get method. Now handle the requesting do get method. So what is our first step? We have to connect to the browser from where we got request. So here print writer out equal to response dot get writer. Say response dot set content type text/html. Now read the form data. How to read form data? String envo equal to request dot get parameter of envo. Similar way, go with other values. String ename equal to request dot get parameter of ename. String salary equal to request dot get parameter of salary. That's it. So we have read the form data. Once you read this form data, then based on the application, we are going to process our data. In our example, what we need to do, we want to just to show the data in tabular format. We want to show the data in what? Tabular format. Now, so for that, create a table out.println. So which tag we use to create a table? Table tag. Table border. Create a row. Table row. In the first row, we go with the table heading, employee number. In the first row, we go with table heading, employee number. Then table data, the value of employee number. Then close your table data. We are displaying employee number as heading, and table data, the value of your employee number we are placing in table data. Then close your table row. Similar way, th, create a new row, employee name, table data, the value of ename. Close your table data, close your row. Create a table row, table heading, employee salary, close your table heading, then table data, the value of salary. And finally, close the table. That's it. That completes our application. Now, the next step, run the application emp.html. That run the application emp.html. So right click on emp.html, run on server. Here we have right click on emp.html and say run on server. So which is going to start the server, opens the browser and displays the form to us. Fill the data, employee number, employee name and salary. Then click on submit button. It's going to show our data. Wait, in the response, it's going to show our data in tabular format. That's it. A simple basic application to read form data. Clear all of you? Any questions? Right, compulsory you need to practice on this. Now, understand carefully. Whatever the data we have filled in the form, our data is visible in the client URLs here. The data what we have entered, the data is visible in the client URL. Let us suppose if the user is filling the passwords, then passwords also will be visible in the client URL, which is not good. Showing passwords is not good in the client URL. So first of all, why the data is visible in client URL is by default the method call. The default method call, the HTTP method call will be get here. Even you are writing or not writing, the default call method call will be get. So when the method call is get, the data goes along with the URL. The data will go along with the URL. So I don't want to send this data along with the URL. Then we have to use the method call as post here. We have to say post. So when we use the method call as get, it will go to servlet and it's going to invoke doGet method. So when the method call is get, it is going to invoke doGet method. So by default, it is going to invoke doGet method if you are not mentioning this method attribute. So that's the reason we handle the request in doGet method, because the default method call is get here. Then when you go with the method call as post, when we say post, the data will not be sent along with URL. It is sent as a separate page, not visible. Then when the method call is post, then in the servlet it goes to doPost method. And in doPost method we are invoking doGet method. So in doGet we are handling the request. So when to think of get, if you want to send the data along with URL, get method. If you don't want to send data along with URL, post method. So when we go with post, it is going to invoke doPost. So the suggested way of creating servlet is always override doGet method and doPost method, handle the request in doGet method and invoke doGet method from doPost, so that your servlet will be independent of method call. Means if HTML code is written by some other programmer, servlet code is written by some other programmer. If HTML programmer uses method as get, however, I'm having the coding doGet method. If HTML programmer uses method as post, then however I'm invoking doGet method from doPost. So when you override both the methods and handle the request in doGet method and invoke doGet method from doPost, then my servlet is independent of method call. Now keep the method as post and let us run the HTML file now. Just you can even click on this run, fill the data. Now when you click on submit, see the data is not visible in the client URL. It is not visible in client URL. Got it? So mainly when you are having passwords, we go with post method. So very important intro question, get wise post. In case of get method, the data goes along with the URL, means visible in URL. Whereas in case of post method, the data goes as a separate page, means not visible in URL. So mainly when you are having passwords, we think of post method, else we go with get only. Any questions, anyone up to here? No. Let us move to the next topic here. Session tracking. Let's move to the next one, session tracking. So what is this session tracking is? Session tracking, session is used to navigate between the pages. Session is for what? To navigate between the pages. If you are having page 1, we can connect to page 2. So from page 2 we can go to page 3, or from page 1 we can go to page 2. From page 2 we can go to page 4. Now the meaning of tracking is like when we want to open page 2, I should check whether I'm coming from page 1 or not. If I want to open page 4, I should track whether I'm coming from page 2 or not. So checking whether the user is coming from previous pages properly or not, that concept only we call session tracking. Okay, session tracking is used to track whether the user is coming from previous pages properly or not. Okay, then how to do this session tracking? Very important one. How to go with session tracking is by using HTTP session interface. This interface is used to track user session by using attributes. By using what? Attributes. Like example, in page 1, when you are in page 1, we begin the session. How to begin the session is HTTP session equal to request.get session. So we call the method HTTP session equal to request.get session. So this one will begin the session. Now by using session attribute, by using session object, we set the attribute here. We set the attribute, some attribute name and attribute value. So by using session object, we are going to set the attribute with some attribute name and attribute value in page 1. Then we connect to page 2. Once we go to page 2, in page 2, get the session details. HTTP session equal to request.get session. Then by using session object, we get the attribute here. In page 2, we get the attribute name. Now, if you open page 2 directly, then can I get the attribute value here? No, it is going to return null. It's going to return what? Null, because the attribute is not set at all. In page 1, you are setting the attribute, and in page 2, you are getting attribute. If I open page 2 directly, since we are unable to get the attribute value, then that means it is invalid session. It is what here? Invalid session. Okay, right? It comes under as invalid session. Then if I open page 1 first, in page 1 we are setting attribute. From page 1, if you are going to page 2, since the attribute is already set, we are able to get the attribute value. If we are able to get the attribute value, that means it's a valid session. So we track the user session by using what? By using attributes. We set attributes in page 1. In the next pages, we are going to get the attributes. That's a way to track whether user is coming from previous pages properly or not. Right? Now, let us understand with the programs. Session.html, this we need to run. HTTP page 1 .java, create like a servlet. HTTP page 2 .java, create like a servlet. Let us do this. Create HTML file. Right click on project and say new HTML file. Session.html. Design the form. Form action equal to web project slash HTTP page 1. So when you click on submit button, we will connect to HTTP page 1 servlet. Then accept some data. So generally we track sessions using usernames. Username, input type equal to text, name equal to username. And one submit button. Input type equal to submit, value equal to sub. Now when you click on this submit button, we connect to HTTP page 1 servlet. Now create servlet. Right click on project and say new servlet HTTP page 1. Import the related packages. Override dogit method. Dogit method, say print writer out equal to response dot get writer. Then call the method response dot set content type text slash HTML. Now read the form data. String username equal to request dot get parameter of username. Once we read this username, now I want to use this username for tracking. So we'll make this username as the attribute here. So begin the session first. How to begin session? HTTP session equal to request dot get session. What you have HTML form? We have accepted a username. We have accepted a username. In servlet in HTTP page 1, we are reading the value of username. Now once we read the value of username, we are beginning the session. We are beginning what? Session HTTP session equal to request dot get session. Now set the attribute. Session dot set attribute. I'm giving the attribute name as username. Value is your username. The value what you have entered. Your username. So we are setting the attribute in page 1. Now connect to page 2. How to move to page 2? You can create one hyperlink. Out.println ahref equal to slash double quotes web project slash http page 2. Next page. So we are creating next page as part here hyperlink. So this next page will become hyperlink. So when you click on this next page, it connects to which servlet? HTTP page 2 present in this web project. Okay, and always remember this HTTP page 1 whatever we are reading, this is not your servlet class name. We call with what? URL pattern. URL pattern. So we refer to servlets only using URL patterns here. And if you open your web.xml file located in web.inf, see whenever we create new servlet, see your servlet code, it's adding, see the codes, servlet code, servlet mapping, servlet mapping. See the URL pattern, it is taking our class name only. It is taking our class name only as URL pattern. So whenever you want to refer to a particular servlet, here this HTTP page 1 is what? It's a URL pattern, not servlet class name. By default, your Eclipse will give class name as URL pattern. So here also this is not your servlet class name, this is your URL pattern. So whenever you want to connect to a particular servlet, we have to refer only with URL patterns, right? And why slash double quotes I said yesterday? To represent double quotes as it is, we go with the escape character slash over here. Okay. Now, when you click on next page, it connects to which servlet now? HTTP page to servlet. Now create page 2. Right click on project and say new servlet HTTP page 2. So what is session tracking main thing? We have to just check whether user is coming from previous pages properly or not. So that tracking only we call session tracking. Then we are going to do this session tracking using HTTP session. Import the packages. Override to get method. Print writer out equal to response dot get writer. Response dot set content type slash HTML. Now we get the session details. HTTP session equal to request dot get session. Since already the session started, since the session already started in page 1, that same details will be given over here. Now get the attribute. So say your string username equal to session dot get attribute. Session dot get attribute. What is attribute name? Username. Now, since get attribute method returns object, go with the typecasting. Now, if you are able to get the attribute, means if username not equal to null, okay, means if you are coming from page 1, the attribute is set here. And if I come to page 2, if I connect to page 2, if I am able to get the attribute value, if it is not null, then we'll go with the message out.println welcome the value of username. Else means if I open page 2 directly, then the username value will be null. We cannot get the attribute value. Then we'll display out.println invalid session. Now run this page 2 directly and even click on this run button. It will ask you to restart server. Then see, we are getting invalid session because I cannot open page 2 directly. So simple example is if you take Gmail or any banking applications, after logging only we can able to check for our messages, or related to banking we can check for our balance or do any other banking transactions. First we have to log in, then only we can make it possible. If you just directly copy the URL and try to paste the URLs directly in browser, it won't come. It will say it will redirect to some other pages. It will redirect to login page again. Just copy and paste will not work. We have to compulsory login to enter into the next pages. That same concept is here. Okay. Now, instead of going with the message invalid session, I want to connect back to our welcome page. Session.html we call welcome page. The first page, what you make it visible to the user, we call welcome page. So instead of displaying the message invalid session, we want to redirect to the login pages, home pages. Same thing happens in Gmail also. In banking applications also, if you directly paste some URLs and if you are trying to do some process, it will redirect to the home pages. So to redirect to the welcome page here, we have to say response dot send redirect web project slash session.html. If it is invalid, I want redirect to which page here? Session.html. So which method we use? Response.send redirect. Now see, when you run page 2 directly, instead of going with the message invalid session, it is redirecting back to session.html. Now let us run the application from session.html properly. So enter some username, admin. When you click on submit, it will ask you to go to next page. When you click on next page, it is saying see welcome admin, because you are coming properly from previous pages. Just tracking whether user is coming from previous pages properly or not. That concept only we call session tracking. And how to do the session tracking using HTTP session interface. Clear this up concept, all of you? Any questions? Right? So very important one. Please practice this. And tomorrow we go with a big application. Tomorrow we develop a big application connecting to databases, that is complete login application. How to register a user in the database and how to check whether that user is present in the database. Complete login application by connecting to databases we are going to see in tomorrow's class. So don't miss tomorrow's class. It's very, very important one. So tomorrow we complete servlets, and after tomorrow we start off with a new topic, JSP. Okay, right.